What's up, everybody? This is Tim Tebow, and you're watching Gator Country. God bless.
Hello, Gator Country fans. I'm Cassidy Hill. This is Nick Delatory. Picking back up at our whole team overview. We really should come up with a cooler name for it, but
let us know. If you're watching and you have a cool name, let us know.
In fact, you know what? Let's make this a little bit more interesting. I'm about to spring this on you. Surprise. If you watch these a lot, which we know some people do, and you want to try to trip us up every now and then, give us a word or a phrase or a cultural reference, you can tweet us or post it on the thread if you're a Gator Country insider, or, send it by smoke signal, pigeon, however you want to get to us, and we will try to implement it.
Probably the most successful way.
Exactly. Yeah. Please send it by a pigeon, and then we will hold the pigeon in the video.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting off track. Anyways, the point is, if you want to be a part of these videos, send us a word or a phrase or something, and we will try to implement it in the best way possible. But don't make it too difficult or something that you wouldn't say in front of your grandmother. Okay, so back to these team overviews. As you remember, we covered most of the offense a couple of days ago, but we left out the offensive line because, well, I think the first line of my notes really just kind of sums it up. Mm-hmm. It says, which I think is how Jim McElwain feels about the offensive line right now as well. We've been out at practice for 2 weeks now. Limited numbers, but what do you see from those guys?
Well, there aren't many guys to talk about, but there's a lot to talk about. There's only 7 scholarship offensive linemen. Trip Thurman's sitting out. He's had a shoulder injury that's really bothered him all going into 5 years that he's been here. So Jim McElwain wants him to get a full offseason, a full 8 months without anything happening to it, banging it. So he's been sitting out. So really, they're asking a lot of younger guys to step up. Antonio Riles is a guy who's moved over from the defensive line. He made that move when Muschamp was still here. But he's looking at potentially getting a starting spot at one of the inside guards. Another guy, Andrew Mike, a redshirt freshman. Another possible starter at inside guard. And then you're going to have a sophomore at left tackle, David Sharp, and a redshirt sophomore at right tackle. So there's a lot of youth along the line. It's tough to really see what they're doing, but one thing that has been consistent throughout all of spring practice is the coaching staff praising them for their work ethic. And the coaching staff saying, hey, we understand where these numbers are. These guys aren't making excuses. They're not saying, hey, coach, we can't do that, we're tired. They're going out there, they're giving it their all. And I'm sure they're happy that there's only a few more practices here before it's all over and they can take a nice couple weeks break.
Jim McElwain mentioned that Cam Dillard's at center, but he's teaching the guards to snap as well. About to throw a little bit of my Bama at you. That's something he did with Barrett Jones when he was at Tuscaloosa, and as you remember from Alabama, that paid dividends on that line.
Right.
Do we kind of see pictures of that here, or is that just more of a necessity because they don't really have a backup center?
Well, Barrett Jones was an oddity because he was a guy that played left tackle through right tackle. He played all 5 positions on the offensive line. Right now, I think what Jim McElwain is doing, maybe down the line, he's doing it as something like that, like he did with Barrett Jones. But right now, I think it's something of necessity. Okay, so if Trip Thurman, who's had problems with his shoulder, if he gets hurt, then you have Cam Dillard. And if you look at Florida's recent history, offensive linemen drop like flies. It's a tough league to play in.
Eyes.
All kinds of stuff happens. So it's a tough league to play in. And if you only have 2 guys who have any experience at all snapping the ball and they go down, then what are you going to do? You can't play football unless the center snaps the ball to get the play started. So right now I think it's something out of necessity. But as you pointed out with your Tide, it's something that you'll see as long as Jim McElwain is here, see him continue to do working guys in. Yeah.
Let's go back to Sharp. You mentioned him a second ago. Daniel McMillan said a few days ago that that's the guy he's been going up against a lot, and that those battles are pretty 50-50 as far as who's winning them. I mean, I know McMillan is young, but is that a positive for Gator fans as far as on the offensive line?
It's a positive. David Sharp is a big kid. He played basketball in high school, so he was a little bit slender in high school, I guess if you can call 260, 270 pounds slender. But David Sharp is now up to 360, 370. The coaching staff is actually asking him to lose some weight a little bit. Mike Summers wants him to lose some weight, so maybe it's just some of his footwork isn't as quick with the extra weight that he's added, and Daniel McMillan being a speed linebacker, being able to get around the corner. maybe that's what he's taking advantage of. You really don't want to see your left tackle, especially your young left tackle, struggle at all, especially after seeing Xavier Nixon have a great freshman year and then kind of trail off, and then DJ Humphries have a great freshman year and kind of trail off. You'd like to see David Sharp dominating, but you can't say it's spring practice, so there's always the catch-22. It's a double-edged sword. If one side of the ball is doing well, that means the other side of the ball isn't.
Now, I know you kind of hit on everyone along the line right there at the beginning, but go back and kind of pinpoint some ones that have really stood out to you at practice.
Standing out to me, I think, first and foremost is going to be Rod Johnson. He's a guy that I think can play right guard, he can play left guard, he can play right tackle. Right now, I think you slate him in as the starting right tackle day one, unless Martez Ivey, big freshman from Apopka, can come in and play right away. Now, to me, people are saying he's a 5-star, he should be able to do this. I think if Martez Ivey comes in and shows that he's ready to play, then that makes Fuller's line even better, because then you can slide in a guy like Rod Johnson to guard. And now it's not saying, okay, well, he's a 5-star, so we just have to put him in there and play and see how he does. If Martez Ivey's playing, it's because he earned that spot. And that means you're going to have what I think is 4 solid players, and then you're figuring out what to do at that left guard spot.
It's like you read my mind, because the next point on here is Martez Ivey. Yes, he is a 5-star, but what, you just kind of hit on this, but let's go a little bit deeper. What is it going to take for him to earn a starting spot? Especially with only 7 right now.
Right. It's tough. Only having 7 is going to help him out, but it's tough. Offensive line, more so than any other position in football and in recruiting, is the one you have to do the most projecting on. A guy like Martez Ivey, who is bigger than everyone that he's going against, can get away with sloppy technique. It's something that Rod Johnson's had to work on since he's been here. He was bigger than everybody when he played in high school, so he got away with sloppy footwork because he was able to overpower people. So you need to see Martez Ivey come in. First off, he needs to gain a little bit of weight. Probably played around 260, 275.
He's slender.
Needs to get closer to around 280, 285, 290 is where you ideally want him as a freshman, and then pushing that 300 as he gets into his later years here. But for him, it's going to be coming in, learning the playbook, and building the confidence and the trust in the coaching staff that they need to put him out there day one and have him go up against some of these monsters that the SEC has to offer on the defensive line.
Overall, once this line is healthy and everyone is here and we're into fall camp, is this a line that Gator fans can finally say, like, wow, we may actually have a wall there? Be truthful.
No, I don't think so. I really like what you have on either end in those 2 young players. Trip Thurman's a good player. He's been around for a while, but there's a reason he hasn't played in the 5 years. He's played, but he hasn't earned really a starting job. And I think at center, you're taking a step down from Max Garcia. And then at both guard spots, you're looking at 2 guys. Antonio Riles, who 2 years ago was playing defensive line. And then Andrew Mike, redshirt freshman. We haven't really seen him in any serious action yet. So the line is inexperienced. Your experience comes from a redshirt sophomore and a sophomore. So I think there's going to be some growing pains with them. We'll just hope that they can block long enough to keep the quarterbacks healthy.
Oh, goodness gracious. But we would be remiss to say at this point, would be remiss if we did not say at this point, offensive linemen are the best people on earth, without a doubt. Don't disagree with me there. They keep everyone else safe. Their job is to protect. That's admirable. That's what every girl wants.
Not for me to say.
Okay, let's move into coaching. Let's just break it down. Let's start with offense. Jim McElwain pretty much cleaned house except for Mike Summers. Offensive coaches, how have you seen them come along through 2 weeks of spring practice?
The offensive coaches, I think, got here, and McElwain has said, we're not really playing with an adequate deck. We're not playing with a full deck, and I think they're really just trying to make the best of what they have. You've got 2 running backs on scholarship that are playing, and one of them was dealing with a hamstring injury. The other one, Kelvin Taylor, he and Matt Jones finished in the bottom quarter of the SEC last year in yards per rush. So There's a lot of hype around Kelvin. We really haven't seen him play up to that level of hype yet. At receiver, you've got Demarcus Robinson, and then you've got a bunch of other guys who we talk about as having potential. We just talked about the offensive line and how they might resemble Swiss cheese at times this year.
Oh, goodness.
So offensively, this coaching staff has a really tough road ahead of them, but they've attacked it with enthusiasm. You can see that they continue to have that enthusiasm even as camp wears on. As camp wears on, players start to get tired of going up against their teammates, and tempers start to raise. So the coaching staff has done a good job. You can tell that McElwain is a little frustrated with how much they've been able to install and how much they've been able to implement. He wants it to be more. It seems like he didn't think it would take the players this long to adjust to some of the things, but it's going to be a work in progress, and that work's going to continue into the fall. So fans that are expecting the Gators to go out there and compete for an SEC championship this season, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's not plausible. There's still a lot of work to go, and I think the offensive coaching staff especially is realizing that, because the defensive coaching staff is just looking at talent and smiling to themselves.
Okay. You keep jumping ahead of me. SEC championship. Keep that on the mind. We're coming back to that. We haven't really touched a lot on the defensive players yet. We're going to do that over the next couple of days. But what about the defensive coaching? I mean, me personally, from being out at practice, I just stand there and watch Jeff Collins the whole time.
Yeah, it's Gator fans might not like this, but I don't see a lot of change defensively, coaching-wise. Jeff Collins is a high-energy guy. He's out there running around, his hat's on sideways. The biggest change I think I see personally is Randy Shannon. And Randy Shannon really connects with these kids, and he seems to be more technical in his coaching style than DJ Durkin was. I think I said on a podcast, I felt like the linebackers kind of just went through a bunch of drills last year and then just got through them. And now Randy Shannon, anytime he sees a pinky toe at a place, he's stopping everything, going through with each player. Doesn't matter if you're a walk-on or Alex Anzalone, and running the defense. He's going to stop, and he's going to use that as a teaching moment and as a coaching moment. So other than that, I think the defensive coaching, even though it's an entirely new staff, the attitude and the intensity hasn't changed at all from what the last staff brought.
And like you said, they're basically just kids in a candy store right now.
Yeah. There's a lot of talent on that side of the ball.
And then McElwain, just overall, I think someone posted on our boards a couple weeks ago, and I thought it made a lot of sense. He is a lot different from Muschamp. Not saying that's good or bad, just different. But that he's much more of a CEO type, a GM. Yeah. How do you see that?
We've talked about this before, and I think it's early. We've only watched him for 12, 13 practices. So Jim McElwain, to me, early on, seems more of a Saban type. Both Muschamp and McElwain are from the Saban coaching tree. But what I mean by that is Nick Saban isn't your day-to-day guy. He's smart enough that he's going to hire people as smart or smarter than him to run day-to-day operations. He's the CEO. He oversees the entire picture. So when you'd be at practice last year, once the positions split up, Will Muschamp was working with the safeties, and he wasn't watching anything else going on. He was working with the safeties, and Florida's had a great secondary, and Will Muschamp was a part of that because he was a great teacher of that position, a position that he played. Jim McElwain has worked with the quarterbacks, he's worked with the running backs, I've seen him working with the wide receivers, but mainly he's overseeing practice. It seems like he trusts the staff hires that he made, and he trusts that I hired them to do a job, I'm going to let them do that. My job is to make sure the ship is running smoothly. So that's what I really see differing from Jim McElwain to Will Muschamp.
Little history lesson for you. It was Abraham Lincoln who said,
wow,
the truest sign of a great leader are the men he surrounds himself with.
Or the women he surrounds himself
exactly,
with.
That's right. So SEC championships, let's go back to that. When you walk into the stadium here at the Swamp, there is a plaque. I don't really know what it's called. We're going to go with a plaque. And it has the years of SEC championships won. Starting from the very first one, I think the biggest gap, and I'm not remembering exactly, but I think the biggest gap is like 6 years. But now the last number on there is 2008.
Right.
And we're heading into 2015.
Mm-hmm.
How soon does Jim McElwain have to win an SEC championship?
Well, I mean, from where we're standing right here in the swamp, you can see them. We're all right here, and there's a bunch with the Spurrier era. Then '96, 6 years. So
okay, so from
2000
to 2006, that's the biggest gap.
Yeah.
And then from 2008 to 2015, that's one more year.
Yeah, I mean, it started with Steve Spurrier. Urban Meyer only made the disease worse. Florida fans are addicted to championships. It's been a while, and I really don't see it happening this year. There's still a lot of growing and a lot of maturing. There's a lot of work that this staff has to do. They're only able to do so much in the spring. There's 15 practices. Time is limited. They're doing the best they can. I think it's really going to take time for McElwain to get his guys in to be able to run the system that he wants to run. But Gator fans are impatient. There's a honeymoon phase right now. They're really happy with everything McElwain does. They love that he doesn't wear socks. They love Clarabelle the dog. Jim McElwain can do no wrong in Gainesville right now. First game is in August, and when losses start to happen, that honeymoon phase starts to wear off. I think if Florida is at least not playing or in contention to be in an SEC championship game in 2016, people will start getting restless. And if they're not in that game in 2017, people will start getting angry.
Right.
And if they don't win one by 2017 or 2018,
there'll be boxes outside his door.
He will be feeling a lot of the Gator wrath that Will Muschamp felt.
I do not envy him at all. Okay, well, we're done with offense. We've covered coaching.
Yep.
We'll come back in the next couple of days and get to the good stuff, the defense.
Defense wins championships.
That's right. Offense
Not
fills
the
seats.
last 4 years.
Sorry, Muschamp.
Sorry.
Anyways, anything else? What would be your grade for the coaching? We graded the offense the other day. What's your grade for the coaching?
I give the coaching an A so far. Obviously, I keep mentioning, I'm like a broken record, that there's so much work to do, only so much time to do it, but these kids are really buying in. And I think a lot of that, is tough because you can get a guy who, like John Bullard, who's going into his senior year, and getting a guy like that to buy in is tough because he can just have the mindset of, well, I'm just biding time. I just need to make it one more year, one season, don't get hurt, and then I'm gone. Don't ever have to see these people again. The younger kids, the freshmen, the sophomores, they need to buy in because they're going to be here for a while. But getting the players to buy in, I think, was the biggest hurdle they had, and they've cleared that. So everything after that, as far as X's and O's and installing things, that'll come. But the biggest task they had was to get everyone in that locker room to buy in. I think they've done that.
Congrats, coaching. An A from Nick Delatory. Pretty sure that means you get a cookie, but not from us. That's probably an NCAA violation.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's all I got.
Awesome. We'll be back in a couple of days with defense, and practice starts back up. Last practice of the week before Orange and Blue game. That should be fun.
Orange and blue something.
Something. Peace out, Gator Country.
Peace out, Gator Country. Like that.